Hello, I'm Peter Thompson and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about meetings. Now, meetings are something we all tend to go to and suffer from in organisations. Many managers particularly end up with diaries full of meetings, whether it's regular weekly meetings with your staff, whether it's meetings you have to go to over a particular project, whether it's meetings with individuals and one-on-ones to see how they're going, whether it's meetings with lots of other people, and then travelling to meetings, going to other branches, to other locations, international meetings if you work for a multinational, and there's the travel involved, the overnight stay and so on. Now, some people say it's glamorous to travel a lot and go to meetings. I think for many of us the glamour's gone out of it somehow. So what I wanted to talk about a bit was, well, the alternatives. Why is it that we end up spending so much time needing to be face to face with other people? After all, you're not face to face with me at the moment, yet you're seeing a lot of what I want to say to you. I'm communicating with you, not quite as fundamentally as I would be if I was in the same room. Maybe you might not be able to shake my hand, but you can see and hear me, you can get the idea of expressions and so on. This particularly is a one-way medium because you're just seeing a recording of me, but there are now so many alternatives available. In fact, we've got a real problem. The problem we face is that there's too much choice. If you think about it, I want to communicate something with you, so I have to think now, can I do it by simply sending you an email? Is it something I can put in writing? Do I need to pick up the phone and talk to you because it's something that's a bit more personal than that? Do I engage in a conversation with you and other people which is synchronous, so maybe we have something called an audio conference? Perhaps I'd like to see you at the same time. How about a video conference? Or is it so personal that really we both have to be in the same place at the same time, so it has to be a conventional meeting? Now, the problem is that at the moment we have diaries full of face-to-face meetings. We have in-trays full of emails that are very much cluttering up our lives. A lot of us end up having to answer the emails in the evenings and weekends because we don't have time during the week because of course we've got a diary full of meetings, and yet we spend relatively little time now on the phone. You try and phone somebody, you can never get them, you pay telephone tag, leaving voicemails, or you might schedule a call. Well, it's funny, most people I find don't schedule individual phone calls. What they do is they have a conference call. So if you want to get hold of several people at once, then okay, you will need to have something called a conference call. But if you want to just talk to one individual, you'll pick up the phone and talk to them. We don't probably spend enough time on scheduled meetings. We think, well, if I want to talk to one person, I'll go visit them, which is fine if you're both in the office, working in the same building at the same time. But these days, with flexible working, with distributed teams and so on, it's quite likely that you're not going to be in the same place at the same time. So we need to understand more about when do I use a particular medium for a particular kind of meeting. When is it appropriate to send an email? When should I have maybe a text-based discussion, instant messaging for example, that's kind of synchronous and happens at the same time? Or when should I have an asynchronous text-based discussion on a bulletin board or one of these threaded conversations? In fact, we've got a problem now even with the description of the thing. What is a meeting? When do you have a meeting? Is a meeting only when you meet somebody face to face, or if you leave a voicemail for somebody and they leave one for you back, is that a sort of meeting? It's not face to face, but it's an exchange of information which may lead to a decision or whatever your meeting is for. So we've got so many choices that we need to stop and understand more about what the purpose of a meeting is, and then how can that best be met. Because the cost of meetings, of course, is quite prohibitive. If you stop and think about the amount of time that you spend, probably unnecessarily, in meetings, attending those meetings where you feel you ought to be there, because the boss says you ought to, it's the team meeting, it's the regular meeting, so you ought to get there. Or travelling to meetings, even if it's only at the office the other side of town, you might spend half an hour getting there for an hour's meeting, because most meetings last at least an hour, don't they? Then half an hour back, so that's 2 hours out of your time is something that, well, when you stop and think about it, maybe you could have dealt with in 15 minutes in a phone call. In fact, I find it's interesting, if you have a phone call or a phone meeting, if you like, or a audio conference, you tend to get through a lot more business in the same time, or put another way, the meetings tend to be shorter. There's more, it seems to be more focused and perhaps more business-like. Now, you can argue that, well, if meetings are social and they're for sharing ideas, then maybe you don't want them to be all business. And I think we do have to recognise that part of meetings is social. Part of what we do in meetings is to get to know other people. So I'm not saying that all our face-to-face meetings get substituted by technology, but there are certainly times when we can do that. So what we're trying to do now as a service from WiseWork is to help people think through when is it that you need to meet face-to-face. When will, at the other extreme, an email suffice in terms of communication? Great thing about email, of course, is, and why it probably gets overused, is that you can copy hundreds of people at the same time as communicating with one, so people can't complain they didn't hear about it. There's a written record and so on. So for businesses that have a kind of cover your rear end culture, then maybe the email's not a bad thing. But having said that, if you have a video conference or audio conference, these things can also be recorded. Perhaps not so easy to track down information in them, but nevertheless there can still be a record. So we need to think about all the different media, from the one extreme, which is the very information poor email, which is asynchronous, takes time to get replies, difficult to have emotion in it, even with the little emoticons, through to the full-on face-to-face, all singing, all dancing meeting. So when is it appropriate to have something which is text-based? When is it appropriate to have it audio only? When should audio and video suffice? We're just starting to understand, particularly this video niche. So we're saying, let's help people. Part of our service now is going to be helping people understand how to use technologies, particularly this video technology, because what it's doing for us is helping us to replicate the face-to-face, as we're doing now, in ways that are not perfect in terms of the replication of an individual, but are pretty good these days. And of course we now have the YouTube generation, people coming through into the workforce who are used to communicating this way, seeing their friends over the internet, Skyping their friends, and having friends indeed all over the world, because they recognise that, well, having a friend doesn't mean to say you've got to be with them face to face. So if you want to understand how to run effective meetings in the 21st century, this is an invitation to go to the WiseWork website, that's www.wisework.co.uk, and sign up for one of our free weekly seminars or workshops, which we deliver over the internet, of course, where you can discuss with us ways to run effective meetings, how to use technology to substitute for some of those face-to-face meetings, and how to become much more effective, to save money on travel, and to be more green, and even save the planet. Hope to see you at one of those meetings.